This summer is turning into an absolute train wreck for the sneaker scene. There are just drops happening with no event attached to them, like the Olympics. All these Olympics-themed shoes, the Olympics aren't happening. And tons of stuff like that all over the place. Stuff that should have dropped in line with the NBA season finishing, football season finishing, summer events, all that kind of stuff. All absolutely thrown out the window. And the sneaker release dates are all over the place and the sneaker drops are all over the place. And here we are with another one of those. It's the Nike Kevin Durant 13. EYBL, and I'm going to get into what that EYBL meant for me as soon as I saw it, and I'm really glad I looked into this shoe because I wasn't gonna. I was like, I don't really want to look at that one. But then I was struggling to find something to do today and find out some content for the channel, so I had a look at it, and it turned out that EYBL wasn't what I thought it was, and it's connected to Stand By Me. If you don't know what Stand By Me is, it's a movie. Here's a picture of two of the main characters in it, which is a hint as to what I'm talking about, and it's one of the greatest sort of 80s movies. Stephen King book turned into a movie. Really classic 80s movies that sort of stood the test of time right the way through up to now. If you watched it even now, it'd still be relevant. Great movie. And we're going to get into how that movie ties up with this shoe. We're going to get into how this shoe and the league that it represents has been cancelled. The shoe hasn't, the league has. And what that means for sneaker drops across the rest of the summer, and also looking at the details on this shoe, the bits that are really hot, the unique elements on this shoe that are different to any other Kevin Durant 13 out there, and all the really hot sort of pieces of branding on it. So with that being said, all those three things are coming at you today in this video as we take a close-up look at the Nike Kevin Durant 13 EYBL. This is the Tokyo Bada 23 Sneaker Channel, Tokyo Bada 23 Sneaker Channel days. Mainichi Absurdo de, Mainichi Mite Kudasai, and every single day from Tokyo, Japan, I bring you content about upcoming sneaker releases, sneaker news, and sneaker reviews. And today that's no different as we take a look at this Kevin Durant 13 EYBL. And I'll answer the question that we came with very first, and then we'll get into what the EYBL really means. As soon as I saw EYBL, now I don't know about American basketball sort of circuits, and all I know is NBA. That's I'm from Europe. I'm over here in Japan where I've been for like 20 years. So anything other than the NBA and USA basketball, I don't know much about it at all. So I had no idea that EYBL stands for Elite Youth Basketball League. I had to really think about that. And so when I first saw it, I saw eyeball. EYBL, eyeball. There's a real sort of trend these days to take out the vowels in things and just leave yourself with the consonants. So it's sort of eyeball, it's just what I thought it was. And going back to Stand By Me, what you're looking at here is a picture of Kiefer Sutherland, whose name is Ace in the film. You might know him as Jack Bauer from the 24 series or any other, more current sort of contemporary television. But 35 years ago, he was one of the hottest young actors on the scene. Lost Boys, I think, was one of his big films. And this here, Stand By Me, he played Ace in that. But it's not him who we're interested in, it's the other one. And the other one, his name is Eyeball. That was his nickname in the film. So as soon as I saw this shoe, EYBL, I thought Eyeball, Stand By Me, and I was just sort of like taken back to my youth, 35 years ago, back to when this wasn't grey, and back to when I was much younger than I am now. So that's a tie up to Stand By Me. But getting into what it actually is, EYBL, the Elite Youth Basketball League. Now, what I'm seeing, now I might be wrong in this, but what I'm seeing is I know it's an under-17s league. I know it's sponsored by Nike, and I know it's been going since 2010. So we've got 10 years of this. And what happens is that they play sort of different installments of it, but it finishes up, I think, in the Peach Jam, it's called, in July. And because that's the sort of finals, all of these different bits sort of lead into that finals, the Peach Jam, and then you crown the champions of the EYBL. And obviously that's cancelled this July because there's no way we're going to be sending out under 17s around the country, because it's a USA specific thing, around the country, battling off against each other when we're trying to restrict the sort of transmission of this coronavirus. So it's understandable that it's cancelled, not dissimilar to more adult, like we're talking about under 17s, the older leagues, the Drew League, for example, which usually takes place in Los Angeles around about this time, and has a shoe, an Air Force One. There's the Drew League Air Force Ones that are dropping, but the league itself has been cancelled. And then also, I don't have any news, no new news about the K54s. I do know about the shoes that are beautiful, sixes especially. There's a low one, but the sixes especially are the ones that I like, especially this colorway here, which is more earth tones. But I haven't heard if the K54 tournament in Paris is going to go ahead or not. It's still debatable. I do know that the football showpiece, they call it French Cup final, was played recently, and there were people in the audience. They did have the crowd there for that, so they are kind of leaning towards opening things up in France, and that might mean the K54 tournament does go ahead. But what I was saying about the Drew League and the K54, and now we've got these eyeballs, these EYBLs, that if the league doesn't go ahead but the shoe does, it could be a rare thing that's, you know, in years' time, that those Air Force Ones, those Jordan 6s, and now here we are with these Kevin Durant 13s. These might be sought after because the league doesn't go ahead. If the league's cancelled but the shoes aren't, it makes them a little bit more desirable. So it might be worth getting your hands on these guys and having a look at them. So as far as, you know, the adult leagues that have been cancelled as well, and then here we are with this EYBL, the Elite Youth Basketball League, that's also been cancelled. So now, as far as I'm known, this is my perception, and correct me in the comments down below if I'm wrong, but what I see when I look at this league is I see a kind of a feeder into higher level basketball for mid-level players. I don't see, you know, the likes of Russell Westbrook, for example, one of the youngest guys out there right now. I don't see his name on the roster of notable players who have played in this league that have been. It's been around for 10 years. So of course, players like LeBron James, for example, were before this league's time. But I don't see any of the really big young names in the sort of previous, you know, people who have played in this league before, which makes me think that what it's useful for is players who are, you know, mid-level, professional level, but players who want to get seen, who want to showcase their talents and do it, you know, maybe then get picked up by NBA teams. I'm guessing the really big high school players, under 17s, like I said, are already scooped up, already tied into contracts, already kind of scooped up by Nike and brands like that who want to get the next big thing already sorted out, and they wouldn't want to risk those players playing in a league like this and getting injured. So that's what I see this, you know, Elite Youth Basketball League as being, but I might be wrong in that. It might be more than that, might be less than that, you know, and maybe you know more and will let me know in the comments down below. But the last thing we want to do today, we've done two of the three things, Stand By Me, and then the Elite Youth Basketball League is sort of what that is, and then the actual shoe itself. So let's go and have a look at this guy here, and we'll start on the lateral side because that does have one of my favorite things that Nike have been doing over the last few years, which is a swoosh that dips down into the midsole. I really, really dig that, especially if it doesn't match the midsole and they've had to use technology to line up the swoosh in the midsole. In the case of these, though, it's kind of unusual. I'll be zooming in on it behind me right here, and you can see that gold swoosh that dips down there on the lateral side, and we'll get to the medial side in a minute. But it seems like it doesn't dip into the midsole in the way that like I've normally seen other shoes do. It seems like it dips behind it. So hopefully you're able to see there here that sort of panel that comes up from the midsole actually has a bump on it where you can see that the swoosh is going behind that. So instead of it being two separate things, the upper element of the swoosh and then the midsole element of the swoosh, it's actually one whole thing. The midsole is kind of slapped over the top of that swoosh, which is kind of cool. But that gold head of swoosh on the side is one of the big places with the gold. The second big place is that ankle support that comes up around the ankle and then onto the laces up there where you've got the gold laces on it. So it's predominantly a white sneaker, very strong hits of gold. If you take a look at the white upper on there, you can see that pinstripe check pattern that runs through the entire upper of these guys. Looks really good in these two colors with the white offset with the gold on top. But then if we come around to the medial side, like I said, I wanted to look at that in particular because the swoosh on the medial side is totally different from the swoosh on the lateral side. On the medial side, it's a stitched swoosh in oversized stitching, so large stitches all the way around the outline of that swoosh, but they're in blue. It's almost an aqua blue or a light blue, which is in total contrast to the gold and the white motif we're going for. So you'd be like, kind of surprised at that. Why is that way? The reason it's that way is if you go up high and have a look at the lining, you can see it's in that aqua blue as well. And so having that medial swoosh in that aqua blue, it kind of brings the pattern, if you like, together and brings the narrative of the shoe together, which leads us all the way to the heel of the shoe, to the final sort of point that's worth looking at on these guys, which is they've gone for double branding on the heel where it says KD on one for Kevin Durant, and then on the other it says EYBL, Elite Youth Basketball League on the other one. I love it when they have different branding on the two shoes. Makes me think they've taken the time to design the shoe for what it is rather than trying to grab money by making it as cheaply as possible. But again, that branding on the heel there, even though below it you've got that wraparound of gold that comes from the upper, you've got the branding there in that light blue as well. So the blue swoosh on the medial side, the blue branding on the heel, and the blue on the lining all come together to sort of balance out that gold and that white effect. So very, very cool shoe, and all of that is represented in the outsole. Very simple looking outsole, but it does sort of, I don't know, reinforce the colours that you get in the upper out there with the outsole. So let's take a look at the lateral side again. I forgot to mention that down near the forefoot, there's a little 7 peeking up in gold, which is one of my favourite little details on KD13s, just paying homage to that number there. But you can see that on the lateral side as we take a look at the whole shoe. It's harder to see the pinstripes when you're this far away, but that pinstripe sort of design in there in the upper, and the gold and the white, and then those hits of blue just sort of set it all off. Very nice looking shoe, and a very nice story as well. It's great to see support for the Elite Youth Basketball League. I do know this year, I think Kevin Durant has a team in it, and Russell Westbrook has a Why Not team in it as well, but alas, all that cancelled for this year's time, but maybe next year we'll come round again. Okay, that's me for today. Done my bit of content. You know, I'm trying to do my daily content, got to keep it going. Done, you know, something like 600 days of non-stop content, just keep it on, keep it on. This will probably be Monday's video. This is Saturday afternoon I'm videoing it, so hopefully you enjoy the content. Oh, the shoe comes out July 30th, by the way, if anyone's interested in trying to get their hands on these guys. Time for me to sign off. Thank you guys for checking out the content, but you know what, I do this every single day, so that means that you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.